Arise, shine, for your light has come. Happy New Year. Good to be with you on this first worship service of 2019, where we don't even have to transfer the Feast of the Epiphany because it literally falls today. What a glorious way to bring in the new year together. This feast and celebration of light, not the light that came into the world. We did that celebration at Christmas. But God's revelation of this light by a star made known to people far removed from the Holy Family. We are today, because of Feast of the Epiphany, in Matthew's Gospel, taking a break from our Year C in the Gospel of Luke, because, interestingly enough, Matthew's Gospel is the only one to contain the story of the Magi. And as I know you all know, Matthew's Gospel is the Gospel to the Jewish people. That's the reason it starts the beginning of our New Testament Gospel canon. It is the bridge between the covenant made first with the children of Israel, showing the new covenant brought through Christ. The Gospel of Matthew is the Gospel where Jesus begins many of his teachings by saying, "You have heard it said, but I say to you." And they all would have heard it said, because they heard it said through the teachings of the law of Moses and the prophets. But not we three kings of Orient are. They would not have heard it said. They were not Jewish. They were, wait for it, Zoroastrians. I practiced that. They were magi, astrologers. The Zoroastrian faith is considered the oldest active faith we have. There are still Zoroastrians among us. Their monotheism influenced the Jewish people. They came long before Christianity. And today, that is whom God pulled into the story. God is always pulling outsiders into our story. Why does God do that? And another thing about this really cool feast is it is a story of plans being disrupted. Why does God always disrupt our plans? Why must new things always be breaking forth? Because as St. Paul reminds us in a beautiful excerpt from that letter this morning, God's wisdom is made known in a rich variety. The bountiful of riches is just too much for one world view. We still have a lot of the elements of Christmas in this church, but we're missing one thing a little less in number today than we were on the 24th. Yeah, a little bit? Yeah. Our average Sunday attendance is somewhere around 120 to 150 on a great Sunday. Christmas Eve, we saw well over 400 people. At the 4:30 service, we were packed in here. We had 300 plus. At 9 o'clock, we had 100 plus. I was talking to my dad on Christmas Day, and he's asking, "So how are the numbers?" And I told him, he was like, "Wow, congratulations." And I'm like, okay. I don't take credit for our high numbers on Christmas. It's because it's Christmas. And frankly, all those extra outsiders cause a lot of problems. I bet parking for some of you was challenging. I bet you didn't necessarily get the seat you wanted, and if you did get a seat, if you weren't even here an hour early, which some people were, you had to squeeze in next to some strangers who didn't necessarily know how we do things around here. At 4:30, we do a second station for communion at the transept. It is incredibly awkward. My hat's off to Bill Baker and all the ushers who were faithfully here, shepherding people where they needed to go. But there's truly no way I can do an hour-long liturgy, and believe me, lots of people comment on how grateful that hour-long liturgy is, without doing that second communion station. But it's challenging, all those outsiders in our midst. And I know all of you are much kinder than I am, but there always is a little voice in my head that's like, you're welcome very much. We do this all year long. So glad you can join us. It's nice to be with Christmas. And then yesterday I pull in to what I typically pull into on the Saturday mornings for my 9 a.m. yoga practice at the Towson Y. And I pull into that parking lot at 8:30. It was packed. I had to drive all the way around to the other side of the building where I never have to go, and boy was I grumbling, and it was not namaste. Outsiders disrupting my plan. Because I think that you and I share something in common. We like our religion organized. We like our lives organized. We like to do things the way we're used to doing things. And when people and situations disrupt our traditions and rituals and plans, it can be very aggravating. We want the story and the way it goes to mold to our way of doing things. Do you know why I read that 3 wise men came? They are not wise men. They are magi. But in 1604, when they were translating this into English for that King James first version of the English Bible, they got to that word magi in the Greek, and they're like, ugh, that's magician. We don't want a pagan word like that in our gospel story. That's not how we want to tell the story. So they made it wise men. Why did we sing We 3 Kings? They aren't kings. They're astrologers. Because a very proper Episcopal rector in 1864 up in Pennsylvania had to write a song for his pageant. And so he wrote one of the most popular American Christmas carols we've ever had, based not on the Gospel of Matthew, but on that psalm that we read about the kings of Tarshish. We tend to conflate stories. We had the Magi at the pageant, but they weren't there at the birth. We do things to fit the order we want them in. We like things organized. I think at the Feast of the Epiphany, one of the teachings available to us is to see the different reactions of outsiders to when plans get disorganized. On the one hand, you have King Herod. He too is an outsider to the Jewish story and to this promise of God. How does he react to the news of God's fulfilling promise? Fear, terror. He isolates himself. He becomes incredibly myopic in his view, and it's all about me, 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 and how does this affect me, me, me. He lashes out violently on the feast that was last Thursday, Feast of the Holy Innocents, where in Matthew's Gospel, Herod tries to hold on to his power by slaughtering all the children under the age of 2. A ruler who uses violence to selfishly hold on to what he thinks he can. And then there are the Magi, also outsiders. They are not a part of the promise to the children of Israel, but there is something in those stars that speaks to them. And so they go seeking, and they get their calculation wrong. They show up in Jerusalem only to be told, the one time in the gospel when the priests get it right, only to be told, no, he's born in Bethlehem. You got to go 9 miles out of your way. 9 miles back then is going to assume a little bit harder than for you and I. Do they get frustrated? Do they stop their journey? No. Their plans are disrupted, but they reroute. And when they finally get there, they are greeted with joy. And then what happens? They have to reroute again, right? They're paying attention to their dreams, and something tells them that they need to change their direction on their way home. We like to go home a certain way. Sometimes maybe God is trying to tell us to choose another road. Yes, Christmas Eve is sometimes challenging, and I think it will always be challenging. I don't think there'll ever be a time when trying to conduct worship with 300 plus people is going to go any more or less smoothly than it did this past Christmas Eve. And no matter that gremlin voice in my head, by the end of the service, and I know some of you feel it too, the joy in this place is so palpable. It's palpable because of the decorations of the church, because of the singing of the choir, and us all coming together from Silent Night. At 4:30, it's palpable because there is nothing more incredible than seeing children in costumes trying to share with us the story of love came down at Christmas. It's palpable because in between those services, if you happen to stop in here, you might find people in tears because this is the one time of year they come back to this sacred space. While I was frustrated at the why, by the time I was done with an excellent yoga practice, taught by the same person who teaches here at 5 on Sundays, and I was really saying my namaste, I could also choose to remember that I too was once of those newbies at the beginning of a new year who made decisions to change my life for the sake of my physical, spiritual, and emotional well-being. And it was scary and it was hard, but thanks be to God for it. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna about disturbances and changes and disorder and outsiders, but when we get a little curious about it in the small things, it helps us when the big things come. When we get a little curious about judgment and criticism and anger and frustration, and we choose compassion or patience or kindness or smiling, it helps us when the much bigger disturbances come. Because I guarantee you, 2019 will bring them. Because change is life. These magi are on a journey. We are on a journey. So that is the lesson of Epiphany. And the other lesson are those magi, those Zoroastrians. We need to listen to Zoroastrians and Muslims and Jewish people and other Christians and agnostics and even atheists. Because sometimes there is wisdom there that opens us up to God's rich variety of sharing and bringing us all to this eternal purpose. So arise, shine, your light has come, and all we need to do is seek it, believe it is in here, and see it or try to see it in the outsiders and the friends around us. Our job is not to get to the star, it's just to follow. Amen.